Hello everyone, thank you for joining us in a segment that'll be going over some pieces of the ancient world. Today we'll be starting off with a piece that goes back 2,000 years.
Hey, Professor Carstens. This is Sergio Kajpal from your art history class, the guy who sits all the way in the back. And I today will present my art piece, which is the Seated Boxer. Seated Boxer, also known as the Boxer at Rest, the Boxer of Coronel, the Termi Boxer. It was discovered in 1885 on the Coronel Hill of Rome, near the Baths of Constantine, which is possible that is where it came from. It was essentially found complete. It's one of the most complete sculptures to be found in this era, except for the missing eyeballs, which is very evident from the sculpture itself. And it appears to be very carefully buried. It was done by the Lysippus of Sicyon, or it was done by Apollonius of a later date. But we definitely have an idea of who could have possibly sculpted this. The sculpture was actually soldered together in 8 different fragments. It was cast through a low wax process. In the physical description of the sculpture, it's very much different from the rest of Greek art, and we'll go into why. First of all, we'll look at the face. The face is deeply scarred. It's bruised. They're bleeding. The lips, the wounds, the scars, it's all covered in extra copper, which is essentially blood. The muscles are very tense. The shoulders are slumped over, as if to show exhaustion. But yet the muscles are very tense. You see how tightly his arms and his legs are flexing. The joints are filed away and are extremely exposed. And the blood is trickling all over the mustache, the forearms, the hands. So when we look at this sculpture, we get the picture that this person has just come out of a battle, some kind of fierce, gruesome, almost to be punished by the other person. Interestingly enough, the fingers and the toes are worn away. And we believe that it's because of the passerbys in the ancient times would rub the fingers and the toes as a sign of good luck, divine power. We do believe that perhaps the sculpture was buried carefully because they had this this belief that the powers of it, of rubbing it, would still be in effect. It has going back to the description, it has this large chest defined, and the muscle groups are very well defined throughout the entire body. It has a thick neck, long arms, lanky legs, perfect body for a boxer. And they still have this man still has the cestus, which are essentially ancient boxing gloves made out of leather. They start about halfway up the forearm and go all the way up to the hands. Looking at the more interpretational part of this art sculpture, we see that this differs a lot from the idealism that we have early on in Greek sculpture, where we're talking about glorification and nobility and perfection, the best possible human ever. We have moved so far away from that, and now we are in genre realism, which is where we have a very realistic approach to how somebody looks. I mean, this person is beaten, battered. It just looks the sculpture looks hard. It looks like they've been going through struggles. And so the attitudes we see here are that life is difficult, that this artist is kind of symbolizing cynicalness through this sculpture and symbolizing difficulties of life. So it's gone from perfection to what is really happening in this day and age. And so the boxer is looking up. His head is slightly tilted to the right, and he's looking up. And we kind of see that as perhaps he's waiting for the results of the judges. Perhaps he is told of his next meeting, of his next match, or perhaps his trainer has come to meet him. In either case, he has been beaten, he is battered down, but he looks up for hope. He sees, he has this look of exhaustion, but yet at the same time he looks up almost as if there is something for him to still keep going. There's something that is still driving him. So interestingly enough, we go from one extreme to the other. We go from idealism to in the Seated Boxer, we go to genre realism. And an interesting quote that I read from one of the archaeologists who was on site when this sculpture was uncovered. said this: "I have witnessed in my long career in the active field of archaeology and many discoveries with real masterpieces, but I have never felt such an extraordinary impression as the one created by the sight of this magnificent specimen of a semi-barbaric athlete, coming slowly out of the ground, as if awakening from a long repose after his gallant fights." Well, Professor Carstens, this is my little synopsis on the seated boxers. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got something out of it.
Hey guys, so along with the seated boxer, we'll also be presenting a work done by the Greek artist Scopa. Now this work is actually called the Ludovici Ares and is symbolizing the god Ares from Greek mythology. It was found in 1622 on what is called the Temple of Mars in Roman territory. Now of course the Romans had common sense, and they would usually put structures that would support the arms or other things like that. As my partner said beforehand, the Greeks really aimed for an idea of perfection. In this you can see the very distinguished cheekbones and the facial structures, along with the muscles that are well defined, as well as just the cloth that seems to cling to the skin. In this art piece you can see that the arms and the legs are actually quite close to the body. This is actually good in preserving the art piece because you don't see very many arms or legs or other limbs falling off. Now this guy Scopa, he had a unique sense of sculpting. Whenever he'd make something that would resemble a human, he would have these facial structures that actually were kind of squarish. He was also known for having the mouth slightly open. As you can see from this picture, the art piece has actually a couple symbols that can be seen. Ares was known as the god of war. Of course, being the god of war, he has to have his stuff ready. I mean, he's got the shield at his side and the sword in his hand ready to go. If you look at the sword, you can see on the handle that there is an estranged man sticking his tongue out right at the butt of the sword. Now, there could be multiple meanings to this. This could just be resembling something like a gargoyle that could ward off evil spirits, or it could just be a caricature or a parody towards us humans. So if you look closely, you can see a little character at his feet. Now, he's known as Eros, or more commonly known as Cupid. That's because in Greek mythology, the god Ares was actually sort of Aphrodite's lover. So the symbol of a Cupid or Eros kind of symbolizes their mutual relationship. And from this art piece, I personally get a sense that even though he is a god of war, he does have a sort of soft side. Not only is he the lover of Aphrodite, he also has the time to take off his armor and just set aside his weapons just to take a breather. Thankfully, there were artists like this that really showed the emotion in their sculptures. Even though this was in the ancient era of Greece and partially Rome, we can really see the emotion that the artists were trying to portray. And thankfully, we have classes such as the History of Western Art, and from the help of Professor Carsten, to help us really appreciate these works and what the people of the ancient world are trying to really portray. So, with the special thanks from me and my partner, we'd like to thank you for joining us, and we'd like to thank you for hanging in there and listening to what we have to say. Thank you.